Have you ever wondered why the Dutch are some of the tallest people in the world, or how their genetics connect to the ancient seafarers of Northern Europe? The Netherlands, famous for its windmills, tulips, and cycling culture, is also home to a population with some truly remarkable genetic traits. From their impressive height to their robust health, the Dutch stand out in more ways than one. But their DNA holds even deeper secrets, connections to ancient migrations, unique regional variations, and adaptations to a challenging environment. So, what makes Dutch DNA so unique? Is it the result of ancient hunter-gatherers and farmers blending their lineages? Or could it be shaped by centuries of maritime trade, bringing in genetic influences from across the globe? Today, we're uncovering the genetic story of the Dutch people. We'll explore how the Netherlands' geography and history shaped its DNA, uncover the ancient origins of its people, and reveal the traits that make the Dutch stand out today. And here's something to think about as we dive in. How much of what makes a population unique is shaped by their environment versus their history? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Now, let's begin by looking at how the Netherlands' geography and history laid the foundation for its people's unique genetic traits. To understand why Dutch DNA is so unique, we need to start with the geography and history of the Netherlands. This small but strategically important country has been shaped by its environment as much as by the people who have called it home. The Netherlands is famous for its flat, low-lying landscape, much of which lies below sea level. Over the centuries, the Dutch have mastered the art of controlling water, using dikes, canals, and windmills to reclaim land from the sea. This unique environment has not only influenced their way of life, but also played a role in shaping their DNA. Living in such a challenging landscape likely favored traits like resilience, adaptability, and a strong communal spirit, all necessary for survival in an environment prone to flooding and harsh weather. But geography is only part of the story. The Netherlands has long been a crossroads of trade, migration, and conquest. Its position along the North Sea made it a vital hub for maritime trade, connecting Northern Europe to the rest of the world. This constant movement of people and goods brought genetic diversity, as merchants, sailors, and settlers from different regions passed through or stayed. Historically, the earliest inhabitants of the Netherlands were ancient hunter-gatherers, who arrived after the Ice Age around 10,000 years ago. They were later joined by Neolithic farmers who brought agriculture and new genetic traits from the Fertile Crescent. Over time, these groups blended, laying the foundation for the modern Dutch population. The region was also influenced by a series of invasions and migrations. Celtic tribes lived in the area before being replaced or absorbed by Germanic tribes, such as the Frisians and Batavians. The Romans briefly ruled parts of the Netherlands, leaving behind both cultural and genetic traces. Later, the Vikings arrived, raiding and settling along the coast. Their influence, particularly in the north, is still visible in the genetic makeup of the Dutch people, especially in regions like Friesland. The medieval and early modern periods brought even more diversity. The Netherlands became a powerful seafaring nation, establishing trade routes that spanned the globe. This maritime legacy introduced genetic influences from far-off places, including Africa, Asia, and the Americas, further enriching the Dutch gene pool. Through all these migrations, conquests, and exchanges, the Dutch people developed a unique genetic identity that reflects their environment and their history. The Dutch people are often celebrated for their height, health, and distinctive features, but what lies beneath these traits? To answer this, we need to examine the genetic foundations of the Dutch population and the markers that make their DNA so unique. One of the most significant genetic markers found in the Netherlands is the Y chromosome haplogroup R1b. This haplogroup is widespread across Western Europe and is particularly common in the Netherlands, where it reflects the influence of early Indo-European migrations. These migrations brought new technologies, languages, and cultural practices to the region, as well as genetic traits that still define much of Europe today. Another notable haplogroup is I1, which is found at higher frequencies in the northern regions of the Netherlands, such as Friesland. This marker is often associated with ancient Germanic and Scandinavian populations, including the Vikings. The genetic influence of the Vikings is especially evident in Friesland, where DNA studies have shown a stronger connection to Scandinavian populations compared to the rest of the Netherlands. But the Netherlands is not a monolithic genetic landscape. Regional variations play a big role in its genetic diversity. In the southern provinces, for example, there's a stronger genetic connection to neighboring Belgium and France, reflecting centuries of cultural and political ties. Meanwhile, the eastern regions of the Netherlands show genetic links to Germany, highlighting the fluid borders and migrations that have shaped this area. Interestingly, the Netherlands also exhibits signs of genetic isolation in certain areas. Despite being a major hub for trade and migration, some rural communities, particularly in the north, have maintained genetic traits that date back thousands of years. These isolated gene pools provide a unique glimpse into the country's ancient past. In addition to regional diversity, Dutch DNA also reflects connections to neighboring populations. Genetic studies show that the Dutch are closely related to Germans, Belgians, and other Northern Europeans, but with distinct differences that set them apart. For instance, the Dutch tend to have a higher prevalence of specific genetic markers linked to height, a trait for which they are globally renowned. What makes Dutch DNA even more fascinating is how it combines ancient continuity with influences from more recent history. The Dutch are a living tapestry of ancient hunter-gatherers, Neolithic farmers, Indo-European migrants, and even Viking settlers. This rich blend has created a population that is both genetically diverse and uniquely Dutch. The Dutch people are known for several remarkable traits, but perhaps the most famous is their height. On average, Dutch men are the tallest in the world, standing around 6 feet, 183 centimeters, while Dutch women aren't far behind at 5 feet 7 inches, 170 centimeters. But what is it about Dutch DNA that contributes to this extraordinary height? Scientists believe that both genetics and environmental factors play a role. Studies have identified specific genetic markers linked to height that are more prevalent in the Dutch population. These markers influence bone growth, metabolism, and overall stature. However, it's not just about DNA. The Dutch also benefit from a high standard of living, excellent health care, and a diet rich in dairy products, which provide the calcium and nutrients necessary for strong growth. This combination of genetics and lifestyle has created a population that towers above the rest of the world. Beyond height, Dutch DNA also reveals fascinating insights into health and resilience. For example, studies have shown that the Dutch population has a lower prevalence of certain genetic disorders compared to other European groups. Additionally, Dutch DNA includes markers that contribute to efficient metabolism and strong cardiovascular health, traits that likely evolved as adaptations to their environment and lifestyle. The Netherlands' history as a seafaring nation has also left a unique imprint on its DNA. Centuries of trade and exploration brought new genetic influences into the population. For example, genetic studies have found traces of African, Asian, and Middle Eastern ancestry in the Dutch gene pool, reflecting the global reach of Dutch colonial and trading networks. These influences are particularly noticeable in port cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam, which have historically been hubs of international exchange. Another interesting feature of Dutch DNA is its connection to the environment. Living in a low-lying country prone to flooding and surrounded by water, the Dutch developed a culture of resilience and cooperation. Some genetic traits may reflect adaptations to these challenges, such as stronger immune systems and resistance to waterborne diseases. Finally, Dutch DNA stands out for its ability to blend ancient traits with modern diversity. While the Netherlands has been a genetic crossroads for thousands of years, the population has managed to retain unique markers that distinguish them from their neighbors. This balance of continuity and change is what makes Dutch DNA so fascinating. To truly understand Dutch DNA, we need to trace its roots back to the ancient populations that first inhabited the region. Long before the Netherlands became a hub of trade and seafaring, it was home to some of Europe's earliest human settlers. The story begins with the Mesolithic hunter-gatherers who arrived in the region after the Ice Age, around 10,000 years ago. These early inhabitants lived off the land, hunting animals, gathering plants, and fishing in the rivers and coasts that now define the Netherlands. Genetic studies have shown that traces of their DNA are still present in modern Dutch populations, particularly in regions like Friesland, where ancient genetic lineages have been preserved. Around 7,000 years ago, A major transformation swept through the region with the arrival of Neolithic farming communities. These early farmers brought agriculture new tools and a different way of life. They also brought new genetic traits from the Fertile Crescent, where farming first began. DNA evidence reveals that the blending of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers and Neolithic farmers created a genetic foundation that is still part of the Dutch gene pool today. Later, during the Bronze Age, the Indo-European migrations introduced new cultural and genetic influences. These migrants, likely originating from the Eurasian steppes, brought with them new languages and technologies, such as metalworking and the domestication of horses. The genetic markers associated with these migrations, including the widespread Y chromosome haplogroup R1b, are found at high frequencies in the Netherlands today. The Iron Age brought another layer of complexity, with the arrival of Germanic tribes. Groups like the Frisians, Batavians, and Canaanophates settled in the region, each leaving their own genetic and cultural imprints. The influence of these tribes is particularly evident in the north, where Frisian genetic and cultural identity remains distinct from the rest of the Netherlands. Finally, the Viking Age added yet another chapter to the genetic story. Viking raids and settlements introduced Scandinavian DNA to coastal areas of the Netherlands. This influence is most pronounced in northern regions, where genetic studies have revealed strong ties to modern Scandinavian populations. What's fascinating is how these ancient populations didn't just contribute to Dutch DNA. They shaped the identity of the region. Each wave of migration added new traits and traditions, blending into the unique genetic mosaic we see today. The influence of Dutch DNA doesn't stop at the borders of the Netherlands. Through centuries of exploration, trade, and colonization, the Dutch have left a genetic footprint that can be found all over the world. During the Dutch Golden Age in the 17th century, the Netherlands became a global powerhouse, establishing trade routes that spanned the Americas, Africa, and Asia. Dutch settlers and traders brought their culture, language, and genes to far-off places, leaving a lasting impact on the populations they encountered. One of the most notable examples is South Africa. In the mid-1600s, Dutch settlers established a colony at the Cape of Good Hope, laying the foundation for what would become the Afrikaner population. Genetic studies have shown that many Afrikaners carry Dutch DNA, along with contributions from indigenous African populations, Asian slaves, and other European settlers. This blending of genes created a unique population that reflects the complex history of the region. Dutch DNA can also be found in parts of the Americas. During the colonial era, the Netherlands established settlements in places like New Amsterdam, now known as New York City. While the Dutch population in these colonies was relatively small, their genetic legacy persists, particularly in regions where intermarriage with other European settlers occurred. In Asia, the Dutch presence in Indonesia left a similar imprint. The Dutch East India Company controlled parts of the Indonesian archipelago for centuries, leading to cultural and genetic exchanges. Today, many Indonesians with European ancestry can trace their roots back to Dutch settlers. But the global impact of Dutch DNA isn't just about history. It's also about science. The Netherlands has been a leader in genetic research, contributing to groundbreaking studies on human health and evolution. One major area of focus is the genetics of height. The Dutch are not only the tallest people in the world, but they've also provided valuable data for studies on how genetics and environment influence stature. Dutch scientists have also contributed to research on genetic disorders, disease resistance, and metabolism, using their country's unique population as a model. These studies have advanced our understanding of how genes shape health and development, benefiting people worldwide. The global reach of Dutch DNA highlights how interconnected humanity is. Whether through migration, exploration, or scientific collaboration, the Dutch have left a mark that extends far beyond their small corner of Europe. Today, the Dutch people are celebrated for their unique blend of ancient traditions and modern innovation. From their towering stature to their progressive society, the Dutch embody a rich cultural and genetic legacy that continues to evolve in a rapidly globalizing world. One way the Dutch embrace their heritage is through their strong connection to regional identities. Provinces like Friesland, with its distinct language and culture, maintain traditions that have been passed down for centuries. Meanwhile, modern cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam showcase the Netherlands as a hub of diversity and inclusivity, attracting people from all over the world. This balance between preserving tradition and embracing change is also reflected in Dutch genetics. Despite their small size as a population, the Dutch have maintained unique genetic markers that set them apart from their neighbors. At the same time, migration and intermarriage are introducing new diversity into their gene pool, ensuring that Dutch DNA continues to evolve. Health and well-being are central to the Dutch identity, and this extends to their genetics. Studies have shown that Dutch people tend to have strong cardiovascular health and lower rates of certain chronic diseases compared to other populations. This is likely a combination of genetic factors and lifestyle, as the Dutch are known for their love of cycling, their healthy diets, and their emphasis on work-life balance. But modernization also brings challenges. As the Netherlands becomes more connected to the global community, there's a growing need to preserve the cultural and genetic distinctions that make the Dutch unique. Efforts to document and study regional genetic traits are helping to safeguard this heritage for future generations. At the same time, the Netherlands remains a leader in genetic research, contributing to global studies on human health, evolution, and diversity. The Dutch people are not only a subject of genetic inquiry, but also active participants in shaping our understanding of what makes us human. Ultimately, the Dutch people today are a reflection of their history, resilient, adaptive, and deeply connected to their environment. They carry the genetic and cultural legacy of ancient populations while continuing to innovate and thrive in the modern world. The story of Dutch DNA is one of history, resilience, and connection. From their ancient roots as hunter-gatherers and farmers to their role as global seafarers and traders, the Dutch people have inherited a genetic legacy that reflects thousands of years of adaptation and evolution. What makes Dutch DNA so unique isn't just the traits we see today, like their remarkable height or their health. It's the story those traits tell. Their genetic markers reveal a deep connection to ancient populations, a history of blending cultures, and a mastery of survival in a challenging environment. At the same time, the Dutch have left their mark on the world, spreading their genes through exploration and migration while contributing to cutting-edge genetic research. Their DNA teaches us that no population exists in isolation. Instead, human history is a tapestry of movement, exchange, and shared experiences. But the story of Dutch DNA is far from over. As the Netherlands continues to evolve in a globalized world, new chapters are being written, ones that reflect the enduring balance between tradition and progress. So, what did you find most fascinating about Dutch DNA? Was it their ancient ties to Germanic tribes and Vikings, their extraordinary height, or their role as a global genetic crossroads? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the mysteries of human genetics, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we'll continue uncovering the secrets of our shared human story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.